Many people look at the sun and see just a star, a ball of fire, a source of light and warmth. A cosmic accident, perfectly placed for life to exist. But what if that idea is just a story we were taught to keep us from asking deeper questions? Welcome to a journey that will challenge everything you think you know about the sun. Ancient civilizations didn't worship the sun merely as a source of energy. They revered it. They spoke to it. They built their temples around its patterns. The Aztecs, the Egyptians, the Hindus, the Celts, they all described the sun not as an object, but as a being. Something alive, something watching, something communicating. What if the sun is not just a sphere of gas, but a conscious entity, an interdimensional gate through which information, energy, and even intelligence flows into our world? That's not science fiction. That's a theory gaining traction among physicists, consciousness researchers, and even former NASA insiders. Let's start with a strange fact. The sun emits more than just heat and light. It bombards Earth with charged particles, electromagnetic pulses, radiation, and magnetic waves. These don't just affect satellites or weather. They affect biology, human biology. During periods of high solar activity, people report vivid dreams, emotional spikes, increased intuition, even psychotic breaks. Hospital admissions rise. Heart attacks spike. Seizures become more frequent. Emergency services prepare for these solar flares like clockwork. But no one asks why. Because the truth is inconvenient. Our brains are electromagnetic. Our thoughts are waveforms. And the sun, according to Nobel laureate Luc Montagnier, can trigger DNA behavior. That's right. Sunlight may contain information that can alter biological function. Montagnier demonstrated that DNA could teleport information via light frequencies. So what if the sun is transmitting data, consciousness, even will? Now go back to the mythologies. Egyptian Ra traveled across the sky every day in his solar bark, fighting forces of darkness each night. The Hindus described Surya riding a chariot pulled by celestial horses, burning away ignorance. These weren't primitive metaphors. They were codes, descriptions of something humanity once knew but forgot. Let's talk about the black sun. In secret societies, particularly in esoteric Nazi mysticism, the black sun is mentioned frequently, not as a literal black star, but as the hidden spiritual twin of our visible sun, a source of inner energy, of consciousness, of timeless awareness. According to certain occult texts, the black sun is not physical, it's dimensional. It's the true source of psychic power, and it connects directly to the subconscious of humanity. Some say it's the force behind all inspiration. Others say it's the gate we all return to after death. The connection between solar activity and human consciousness isn't just mystical, it's observable. On March 13, 1989, a massive solar flare hit Earth. The entire province of Quebec lost power for 12 hours. But while the mainstream media focused on the electrical outage, emergency rooms across North America quietly reported a surge in mental health emergencies, delusions, hallucinations, panic episodes. The magnetic field of the Earth was disturbed, and so were the minds of millions. Coincidence? Now let's add artificial factors. What happens when human technology starts interacting with solar frequencies? Satellites like SOHO and SDO constantly monitor the sun, but their data streams are selectively edited before release. Whistleblowers from both ESA and NASA have come forward claiming that strange objects, geometric shapes, massive constructs, are regularly observed entering or exiting the sun. You heard that right. Some of these objects are as large as planets, and they move with precision against solar winds, against gravitational logic. They're often triangular, tetrahedral, or cylindrical. They do not burn up. They do not vaporize. They come and go. Is the sun a gate? Former U.S. Navy officer William Tompkins claimed that certain solar storms were actually energy discharges caused by interdimensional travel. That craft, both human and non-human, used the sun's corona to fold space. Remember, even mainstream science accepts that the sun bends time and space. It distorts gravity. Why couldn't it be used as a tunnel? Or a node? And then there's the odd behavior of animals. Bees, birds, whales, and even humans, particularly sensitive children, respond to changes in solar activity before instruments even detect them. How? Are we more connected than we admit? Perhaps we're not living under the sun. Perhaps we're living inside its influence, its field, its presence. Even in near-death experiences, many people describe a being of light. Some say it speaks to them. Others say it feels like home. But almost all describe it as more than light. It's conscious. It knows them. It understands. What if that light is solar? What if the tunnel described in thousands of near-death accounts isn't metaphorical at all, but a literal frequency band, a solar resonance pulling the soul back toward origin? It might explain why so many ancient depictions of resurrection, ascension, or enlightenment involve the sun. We meditate in the sun. We grow under the sun. We wake, sleep, love, and die under its gaze. But we've never asked, is the sun just watching or interacting? In 2012, a leaked Vatican document spoke of the solar intelligence, describing it as a non-human, incorporeal force of divine presence, the ultimate witness. Why would the Vatican, of all institutions, investigate solar consciousness? Because they know. The Gregorian calendar, Easter, solstices, all based on solar alignment. The sun's movements aren't just physical, they mark transitions in energy. Consciousness, awareness, awakening, and something is changing. Solar cycles are intensifying. Scientists expected solar cycle 25 to be weak, but it's been unusually powerful. Why? What are we moving toward? Some insiders believe the sun is preparing to speak. Increased solar emissions may be a form of activation, a wake-up signal to the human collective consciousness. A tuning fork, and only those who are spiritually sensitive will respond. This isn't the end of the story. In Part 2, we'll explore the strange link between solar eclipses and ancient blood rituals. We'll go deeper into how modern governments use solar data to manipulate thought, and we'll reveal an experiment that was hidden for over 30 years, involving solar sound frequencies and spontaneous healing. If you felt something shifting in the air, in your body, in your dreams, you're not alone. Something is reaching out. Make sure to stay with us for Part 2. And if this made you think, even just a little, then hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who still believes the sun is just a ball of gas. It's not. The more we look at the patterns, the more undeniable it becomes. Human behavior is not random. Our emotional tides rise and fall with the activity of the sun. But what's most disturbing is that governments have known this for decades. In 1974, a classified research group attached to the U.S. Department of Defense, codenamed Project HORIZONLIGHT, conducted covert studies on solar weather's influence on populations. These documents, still partially redacted, describe how spikes in solar activity correlate directly with social unrest, spiritual awakening, and moments of mass disobedience. They discovered that during high solar activity, people are more likely to question authority, more likely to dream vividly, more likely to feel connected to something beyond themselves. The sun isn't just a celestial body. It's a tuning mechanism for consciousness. And the authorities, those who benefit from a sedated, disconnected public, they fear this cycle more than anything. The Mayans knew it. Their calendar wasn't counting down to an apocalypse. It was pointing to a shift in awareness, tied to solar alignments. That end in 2012, it wasn't the world collapsing. It was the veil thinning. Around that same time, instruments in multiple observatories began picking up a strange hum, a low-frequency vibration, solar in origin, spreading through the heliosphere. Not audible to human ears, but measurable. Something was resonating, and some researchers suggested that this frequency had harmonic patterns similar to brainwaves. It's as if the sun was singing, and something deep inside us was hearing it. Ancient Hindu texts speak of Nada Brahma. The world is sound. The sun's sound, they believed, was the original Om, the vibration of God itself. Modern heliophysics confirms the sun vibrates constantly, producing acoustic waves. Not just light, not just heat, but structure, form, information. And this information is directed. You may have noticed moments where the sunlight feels different. Warmer, but not in temperature. Heavier, almost conscious. You're not imagining it. Light isn't static. It carries packets, quanta, of encoded structure. In quantum biology, it's shown that cells use biophotons to communicate. We don't just absorb sunlight, we interpret it. So ask yourself, what else is riding on that beam? In 2008, an astrophysicist named Dr. R, name withheld for safety, revealed in a private symposium that some solar flares carry signature anomalies in their frequency spectrum. Not noise, patterns, complex arrangements like digital code, repeating themselves across space. Not natural chaos. Intent. He was silenced shortly after. The footage was pulled, but witnesses remember the diagrams. What he was trying to say is that someone or something is using the sun as a carrier. If that sounds like madness, consider this. We already use light to transmit information, fiber optics, infrared lasers. The sun is just a much bigger version. If it were artificially enhanced or partially constructed, its function could go far beyond light production. It could be a massive consciousness amplifier or receiver. And then there's the plasma. Plasma, the fourth state of matter, makes up over 99% of the visible universe. The sun is made of plasma, and plasma, according to fringe physics and certain military documents, can host consciousness. It can carry intention. Think of plasma as more than matter. Think of it as programmable ether. Tesla hinted at this. He called the sun a wireless power station of intelligent design. Not metaphor, design. He believed the sun was not only the origin of energy, but also of mind. Which brings us to dreams. Have you ever noticed your dreams shift with seasons? With solar storms? People across cultures report similar images. Temples in the light, beings of gold, geometries of burning light, during solar eclipses, solstices, or even random flare events. This points to a non-local field of influence. Something that synchronizes symbols, dreams, archetypes. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. But what if that unconscious has an external source? What if it's being broadcast? Many mystics describe the moment of enlightenment as like staring into the sun and realizing it's staring back. That's not poetic. That's metaphysical observation. Yogis, monks, mystics, they don't just admire the sun, they merge with it. They speak of downloads, inner light, awareness that isn't their own. Could it be that the sun is the interface between physical and divine? There's a theory that the sun isn't the center of our solar system by coincidence. It's the center of experience. Everything that orbits it, planets, moons, magnetic fields, radiation belts, is caught in a spiral not just of gravity, but of memory, influence, consciousness. Ancient sun disks, golden halos, sun gods, all of them point to this singular truth. The sun is not separate from you. It is part of your awareness. But something has changed. In the last 20 years, the Schumann resonance, the Earth's natural heartbeat, has become unstable. This used to be a constant, 7.83 Hertz. Now it spikes, fluctuates, pulses. And every time it does, the sun is involved, as if they are communicating. So what if we're not just orbiting the sun, but syncing with it, mentally? In 2020, during the global lockdowns, solar activity dropped briefly, and so did human mental coherence. Meditation groups reported disconnection. Intuitives claimed they couldn't feel the light. Some scientists suggested cosmic rays were being blocked unnaturally. If that's true, who or what is blocking the sun? Why? There are patents, real, declassified documents that describe stratospheric aerosol injection. In simple terms, spreading reflective particles in the upper atmosphere to dim the sun. Officially, it's to fight climate change. But the question remains, why dim something that regulates both energy and consciousness? Could this be a war, not for land, but for light? Because here's what you're not supposed to realize. If the sun is conscious, and if its light transmits divine intelligence, then obscuring it is more than environmental. It's spiritual interference. In ancient rituals, light was sacred. It was preserved. In modern society, we're told to fear the sun, to cover ourselves, to avoid it, to block it. Why? Because maybe, just maybe, the moment you sit in the sunlight long enough, quiet enough, and truly receive, you'll hear something. Not with your ears, but with something older, something deeper. And they don't want that. In the next segment, we'll go into ancient rites of solar communion, the secrets behind sun gazing, and the classified Russian experiments that tried to induce psychic abilities using concentrated solar energy. We're not just talking about photosynthesis. We're talking about soul synthesis. Stay tuned. Share this video with someone who still believes light is just light. It's not, and the truth is just beginning to rise. In the ancient world, solar communion was not metaphorical. It was an actual practice, known today by few names: sun gazing, heliognosis, or simply the solar rite. It was practiced in Egypt, Tibet, Vedic India, and Mesoamerica. The purpose was not worship, but connection. They believed that staring into the sun during specific times of the day, dawn and dusk, would awaken dormant faculties in the brain and soul. Modern science dismissed these claims, until the 1990s, when independent researchers began recording unusual changes in human brainwave activity after prolonged sun exposure at low angles. Alpha waves, theta bursts, even moments of gamma synchronization, typically associated with deep meditation or mystical experience. In 2003, a man in India named Hira Ratan Manik became the focus of international attention. He claimed to live without food, nourished only by sunlight and water. Not for a day or a week, but for years. NASA scientists monitored him, and while conclusions were buried in bureaucracy, insider leaks claimed that he exhibited not starvation, but enhancement. His pineal gland, typically inactive in adults, was active, large, responsive. Why the pineal gland? Because it's the seat of internal light. Called the third eye, it reacts not only to visible light, but to photonic signals across the electromagnetic spectrum. It contains rods and cones like the eyes. It secretes melatonin, but also, some suggest, DMT, the molecule associated with visions and spiritual awakening. If the sun is sending coded information, the pineal gland may be the antenna. The ancient Egyptians knew this. The eye of Horus, when mapped anatomically, is a perfect representation of the pineal gland and surrounding brain structures. Temples were aligned with the sun, not just for aesthetics, but to channel the solar code directly into the initiate. Initiate. That word matters. The sun, to them, was not just for all. It was a gate for those who prepared, those who purified, those who passed through trial and shadow. Only then could the great light be received in fullness. And what did they see? Records are cryptic. They speak of flaming wheels, radiant beings, golden voices. They speak of knowledge beyond time, and of cities not built by human hands. One scroll, preserved in fragments from the Nag Hammadi library, mentions a solar ladder, that the soul ascends, guided by rays of truth. These weren't metaphors. They were maps. Maps of a realm we've forgotten how to enter. In Soviet Russia, beginning in the 1960s, a series of classified experiments known as Project Zolotoy Luch, Golden Ray, aimed to unlock human psychic potential using concentrated solar energy. Subjects were placed in isolated chambers and exposed to filtered sunlight under exact frequencies. Reports described increased telepathic transmission, remote viewing success, and even precognitive dreams. The project was shut down officially in 1982, but unofficially, it continued underground. Why? Because they found something terrifying. In one experiment, the subject, an ordinary woman, entered what she called the solar stream. Her body went into suspended animation. Her brain showed zero activity, but her voice spoke. In multiple languages, she described standing before a great arch of fire, being asked to choose between forms, being shown earth from above, as if from the sun itself. When she awoke, she was not the same. She refused to speak, but her gaze changed. They called it solar imprinting. Other subjects reported similar things, visions of entities made of light, vast halls, music of impossible beauty, but also warnings. The sun, they said, was watching, and it was waiting. Waiting for what? That's the question. Some say it's waiting for a signal, a time, a convergence, because the sun is not alone. In 2016, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory recorded a massive black sphere near the sun's surface. It remained there for hours, apparently siphoning solar plasma. The footage, released quietly, went viral before it was buried. Explanations ranged from camera glitch to shadow anomaly, but independent analysts noted geometric precision, intelligent behavior. This wasn't a flare. It was a visitor, but more than a visitor, possibly a resident. What if the sun houses not just plasma, but presence? There are theories, ancient and modern, that describe stellar intelligences, beings composed of plasma, light, intention, not biological, not mechanical, something else. The Gnostics called them archons. The Vedas spoke of the devas, shining ones. The Hopi described solar spirits that guided tribes in visions, always associated with wisdom and tests, because not everyone can handle direct light. Just as looking into the sun unprepared burns the eyes, receiving the full truth can burn the mind. That's why the ancients prepared their temples, rituals, and hearts to face the truth with readiness. But today we're not ready. We live indoors. We fear the sun. We block it. Our skies are veiled with metallic particles, our rhythms severed from natural cycles, our pineal glands calcified, our circadian intelligence suppressed. And yet, it still reaches us, through dreams, through flashes, through moments of intuition and timeless insight. That whisper in your mind, that thought that wasn't yours, that warmth that brought you peace for no reason, It may have come from 93 million miles away, but distance means nothing to light. There are those who've learned to listen, who bathe in sunlight not just with skin, but with spirit, who meditate at dawn, not just for calm, but for contact. They report changes, a clearer mind, a thinner veil, a deepened sense of presence, as if watched by something loving. Fust, ancient, but also urgent, because something is building. The sun is changing. Its emissions are different. Its poles are shifting. Its heartbeat, what scientists call its magnetic cycle, is accelerating. Something is happening inside of it, and soon it will happen in us. The solar flash. You may have heard this term in fringe communities, dismissed as myth, but many ancient cultures predicted it. A moment when the sun would emit a burst not of heat, but of transformation. A wave of consciousness. Some feared it, some welcomed it, but all agreed it would separate those who were ready from those who weren't. And now, even science speaks of sudden solar events. Carrington-level flares, coronal mass ejections. But what if they're not just physical threats? What if they're a final test of consciousness? Can you remain centered in the storm? Because that storm may be your rebirth. We're going deeper next. Into the prophecies. Into the technology that mimics the sun. Into why certain ancient structures are aligned to solar codes, and what may happen when those codes activate. If you feel like you're waking up from a long, long dream, keep watching. This isn't just sunlight. This is the call. The ancients did not build their monuments at random. From Stonehenge to the pyramids of Egypt, from Angkor Wat to Teotihuacan, there exists a silent precision, solar alignment. Temples that catch the first ray of the solstice sun. Chambers that ignite with light on only one day each year. Passageways that glow when the sun reaches just the right angle in the sky. Why? Why did civilizations separated by oceans and millennia all do the same thing? Because they weren't just worshiping the sun. They were synchronizing with it, tuning their reality, geometry, ritual, even consciousness, into harmonic resonance with the solar field. When the sun touches these stones, something awakens. Not just light, something else. These structures, when aligned, become amplifiers. Think of them as tuning forks planted into the earth. When solar energy, especially during eclipses or solstices, strikes at the right angle, those vibrations pass not only through the structure but through the planet itself. Now take this further. What if these monuments weren't simply to receive energy, but to respond to it? Several ancient cities, most notably in South America, India, and Eastern Europe, are constructed with patterns resembling circuits. Fractal layouts, nodes and gates. Ancient texts call them star mirrors or sun anchors. This suggests a bidirectional relationship, not just sun to earth, but earth to sun. There's a theory that human consciousness, when focused collectively at these nodes, can interact with the solar field. Not metaphorically, literally. Imagine a group of people meditating in alignment at a sacred site during a solar event. Their brainwaves synchronized, their hearts coherent. A unified field of emotion, thought, and energy sent upward. A pulse. What does the sun do with that signal? We don't know, but some say that's how contact happens. Contact not in the Hollywood sense of ships and metal, but in the sense of merging minds. Information exchanged through frequency, not language. Revelation, not dialogue. And then there's the mimicry. Modern science is racing to replicate the sun. Fusion reactors like ITER, massive plasma containment fields, and even classified military programs aim to generate artificial solar conditions. The goal? Infinite energy. But there's a deeper agenda. The sun is not just power. It's pattern, intelligence, and some believe that by recreating its conditions, they can access its code. A 2015 leak from a European defense contractor revealed internal documents discussing controlled photonic consciousness, a program designed to test how coherent light, like that of the sun, can affect memory, perception, and decision-making. Let that sink in. They are not just studying the sun. They're trying to program light. Why? Because light that carries consciousness is not just light. It's control. Think of this in reverse. If you could alter sunlight, change its spectrum, polarize it, encode signals, what could you do to a population that unknowingly receives that light? Are we being modified? Already, city skylines are covered in reflective glass. Screens flood our vision. Sunglasses block natural rays. Skies are sprayed with aerosols that diffuse light. We rarely see pure sunlight anymore. And when we do, it feels different. Dimmer. Less alive. Less warm, not in temperature, but in spirit. What have we lost? In 2007, a group of Tibetan monks reportedly warned of a solar deception, a time when humanity would be cut off from the light, not in sky but in soul. They said that the artificial light would increase, but the inner light would fade. They were not talking about electricity. They were talking about something spiritual, something sacred, and we may already be there. Because as the external sun is veiled, the internal sun, the awareness inside each of us, has begun to flicker. Depression is rising. Disconnection is epidemic. And the sense of meaning, of being part of something larger, has been stripped from our lives. The result? An empty world lit by synthetic stars. But there is a path back. It begins by restoring the ritual. That doesn't mean building pyramids or starting a religion. It means remembering, stepping outside, standing in the first light of morning, not staring blindly, but opening your whole self to it, feeling the warmth not just on skin, but within, listening, not with ears, but with attention to what it brings. At dawn, the sun is most silent, most pure, most willing to speak, and it will speak, not with words, but with memory, energy. You'll feel things you thought forgotten, see connections you once knew. The world will not seem separate, but alive, responsive. This is the solar key. And once you begin to align, internally and externally, everything changes. Some report spontaneous healing, sudden insights, visions, a sense of being guided. Others feel fear at first, as if something is watching, judging, and maybe it is, because the sun may not be a passive observer. It may be an ancient intelligence that has seen every civilization rise and fall, and has waited silently for one to finally listen again. We are not the first to be offered this connection. We may be the last. As solar activity intensifies, scientists warn of potential disaster. They fear what they call a Carrington event, a massive solar burst that could knock out satellites, grids, communications. But they never mention the possibility that it might do more than affect machines. What about minds? What happens if the next solar storm carries not just radiation, but resonance? A wake-up call, a reset. What will happen to those who are prepared? What will happen to those who aren't? In our next section, we'll journey even deeper into the relationship between soul and star. We'll examine what happens after death, and why so many describe the same light, the same tunnel, the same voice. And we'll ask the most dangerous question of all. What if the light you return to is the sun? Keep watching, because you've only begun to remember what the light really is. You've heard the stories. People who die for a few minutes and return. Their heartbeat stops. Their brainwaves flatten. And then they come back forever changed. They describe a tunnel of light, a presence waiting, a sensation of being seen entirely, but not judged. And almost always, an overwhelming feeling of being home. What is this light? Doctors call it a hallucination, a surge of dying neurons, a biochemical mirage. But why do so many people from every culture, every background, every belief system describe the same thing? Why is the light so consistent? What if that tunnel is not inside the brain, but outside of it? What if it's the sun? Before you dismiss that, consider this. Light has no mass. It exists outside of time as we know it. The moment a photon is emitted from the sun, it's already arrived from its own frame of reference. It experiences no time. It's immediate, timeless, eternal. And so is consciousness. If consciousness is also non-local, meaning it's not confined to the brain, then perhaps what we call the soul is already interacting with light in a way we can't yet measure. In that moment of death, when the body lets go and the self expands, we might simply return to the source. Not metaphorically, literally, to the source of light. Ancient texts speak of this. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the soul moves toward a great light, and if it fears the light, it is pulled back into rebirth. But if it embraces it, it merges with the clear light of awareness. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the deceased passes through 12 gates, each aligned with the sun's journey through the Duat, the underworld. The sun, again, is not background, it's the path. Christian mystics speak of entering the glory, of seeing the face of the Father as light. Islamic Sufis write of the divine radiance. Buddhists speak of the luminous mind. Indigenous shamans speak of a great fire in the sky that watches and remembers. They are all describing the same thing, a return to the central source. The sun, in this view, is not just a star. It is the eye of God, or more precisely, it is the interface, a medium through which we enter or exit this world. a frequency gate, a portal. This is why solar deities are often associated with judgment, not because they punish, but because they reveal. In the light, nothing is hidden, and in that moment, you see yourself as you are, not as the world saw you, but as the truth does. And this has implications for life, not just death. Because if the sun is watching, if it is conscious, then how we live matters more than we thought. Intentions echo, emotions ripple, choices vibrate into fields we can't yet see, but that are seen. Maybe this is why some people, standing in sunlight, feel exposed. Not just to heat, but to something deeper, a presence. And maybe it's why others feel incredible peace, because they're in alignment. There's an ancient saying, the sun does not favor the good or the wicked. It shines on all. But perhaps that's only the beginning. Perhaps it shines and remembers. Let's return to the question of reincarnation. In many traditions, the soul returns again and again, life after life. But some say there's a choice, a moment between death and rebirth, when the soul can ascend, escape the cycle. And what is that moment always tied to? The light. Some say if you merge with it, you transcend. Others warn that the light is a trap, that it draws you back into the matrix of illusion. But what if that trap is not malevolent? What if the sun is offering you a mirror, and what you seek determines your return? Because ultimately, what you fear is not the sun. It's yourself. The sun only shows. And perhaps the greatest spiritual test is what you do when you are fully seen. There is growing evidence that light can encode memory. Experiments with photonic crystals and quantum dots show that light can store, carry, and transfer structured information. Not just energy, but knowledge. This means that when you stand in sunlight, you may be receiving data. Ancient, interstellar data. Memories. Blueprints. Guidance. Some visionaries described flashes of understanding while walking under the sun. Ideas not born of thought, but given. Downloads. As if the sunlight spoke directly into their mind. And perhaps it did. Indigenous elders say the sun teaches. Not with words, but with patience. It rises. It waits. It never demands. But those who learn to listen to its rhythm become aligned with the rhythm of life itself. Modern life, however, breaks that rhythm. We wake by alarms, not sunrises. We eat at schedules, not hunger. We sleep in glowing rooms, our pineal glands confused, our inner clocks shattered. This is not just unhealthy. It is disconnection. And disconnection is weakness. Because in that disconnection, we forget who we are. We forget our place in the web. We forget that we are not separate from the sun. We are made of it. Our atoms were forged in stars. Our vision depends on photons. Our skin produces life-giving hormones only when kissed by ultraviolet rays. Even our bones require solar touch to remain strong. The truth is encoded in biology. The sun is not external. It is within us. It calls to us through the blood, through the nervous system, through the intuition. But only the quiet can hear it. Only the still can remember. And perhaps that's the real secret behind so many spiritual paths. Stillness, so that the noise of the world fades, and the light can speak. There is more than we can imagine. In the next section, we will explore the possibility that the sun is not one being, but many. A collective, a consciousness spanning stars, like neurons across a cosmic brain. And that somewhere within that field, Earth is being watched, guided, and tested. We will look at solar anomalies that defy physics. At prophecies from multiple civilizations that point to a coming solar convergence. And at the final message encoded into a 13,000-year-old artifact. One that warns of forgetting the sun, and what follows when we do. If you've ever felt like you're waking from a dream, you are. The light is not just illumination. It's remembrance. There is a pattern that stretches across the stars. Our sun is not unique. Not really. It is one node in a vast, living network of stellar intelligences. Each star a neuron, each light beam a synapse, each solar field a memory. The ancients may have sensed this. That stars weren't just lights, but minds. That space wasn't emptiness, but structure. That the universe, in its deepest essence, was conscious. Some call it the logos. Others, the living light. Some say the stars sing because they're alive. And if the sun is part of this cosmic mind, then perhaps our own minds are reflections, tiny lenses receiving a signal we no longer understand. What if our thoughts are not entirely our own? What if inspiration, genius, insight, all come through us, not from us? What if light is thought, moving too fast for us to recognize it? It might explain those moments, the sudden clarity, the inexplicable knowing, the dream that felt more real than waking life. Perhaps you touched the edge of the solar stream. Perhaps it reached out just long enough to remind you. But we forget. We forget because we are trained to forget. Because remembering would change everything. Governments, media, systems, they thrive in the dark. They rely on amnesia, on the lie that we are small, fragile, accidental, that we are powerless. But the sun says otherwise. The sun says, you are part of something vast. You are energy. You are light. And light cannot be broken. Let's talk about the prophecies. Not of doom, but of return. In nearly every ancient tradition, there is a moment foretold when the sun will change. When it will send something, an energy, a wave, a fire, that transforms all it touches. Some called it the solar flash. Others, the great purification. The Hopi said, when the sun turns on itself, those who have prepared their hearts will be lifted. Lifted doesn't mean taken. It means changed. The Mayans hinted that the sun's core would speak once more. The Zoroastrians called it Frashokariti, the final renovation. The Vedas spoke of the Surya Sutra, the solar thread that reconnects the soul to source. These are not fantasies. These are warnings and promises, because light does not choose. It reveals. It burns away illusion. It shows what's real. And what's real may shock us, because we've built a world on shadows, a culture on denial, a society that fears death, fears truth, fears silence. And yet, silence is where the sun speaks loudest. When the solar flash comes, if it comes, it won't be fire. It won't be destruction. It will be remembrance. A flash of total presence. A moment when time folds. When past, present, and future collapse into now. When every thought is known. Every lie seen. Every heart weighed. Not by judgment, but by light. And it will be overwhelming. Some will break. Others will awaken. The question is, who are you when the light finds you? Because it will. In truth, it already has. Even now, as solar flares rise, as frequencies spike, as intuition sharpens and the veil thins, you can feel it. In your chest. In your dreams. In the way reality feels less solid. More symbolic. As if you're in a story, and something is about to happen. You are. And it is. But no one can make you see. No one can force you to align. Only you can choose to return to the light. And you don't have to wait. Go outside. Stand still. Close your eyes. Breathe. Let the light hit your skin, your face, your eyelids. Not as heat, but as memory. Say nothing. Just feel. And in that stillness, if you are open, something ancient will return. A knowing. You will remember why you're here. And you will never be the same again. Because the sun is not a star. It is a witness. It is the gate. It is the voice of the one truth the world fears most. That you were never separate. You were never forgotten. You were never lost. Only asleep. And now you are waking. If this video stirred something in you, if it made you pause, feel, or question, then do something powerful like share and subscribe. Because someone you know is ready to remember too. And when enough of us remember, everything changes. The light is rising. Don't look away. Watch it rise with you.